Hello everybody, and welcome back to my home on this beautiful day in April in East Tennessee. We're going to be changing some things with my little Dendrobium, Salaya Chompu. I believe that she needs to be growing in bark, and I also think that she is over potted in this pot. Dendrobiums usually do better when they're a little bit tight in their containers, and I think I've placed her in a container that's too large, and I think this moss is staying a little bit too wet for her to bloom well. She's growing well, and as you see, she's got a spike of beautiful flowers here, but I'm thinking that she's going to bloom better if she's growing in some Orchiata bark. So I've got some medium chunk Orchiata bark right here, and we're just going to put her in a new home. I think that I'm going to keep the moss that she's growing in because there's nothing wrong with the moss at all. This is New Zealand Orchid grade sphagnum moss. The plant is very, very healthy, and so I'm going to keep it, and I'm probably going to sprout it for another project. So I've got all my stuff here. I've got a new pot that she might be happier in. This is slightly smaller. I have a bowl here to place the New Zealand sphagnum moss in so that I can reuse it again. So I watered her this morning. I'm just going to see what shape these roots are in. I have a feeling that the roots are going to be in absolutely beautiful shape. It's not that the moss is wrong for this orchid, but I believe that she would do better in bark. I've just got that intuitive feeling that sometimes when I listen to it, good things happen. So let's see what's going on here. Oh yeah, see, there's no roots down in this moss. So that's just, I have her overpotted. Okay, let's see what her roots look like. I definitely have this one overpotted. And several of you have asked me what happens when you put Espuma garden lime in your moss. That's what it looks like. The moss just doesn't like it. You see where it's dried in that moss. This moss doesn't smell bad at all. It's just this little orchid had too much moss, was staying too wet, and I believe it was keeping her from blooming and growing as well as she should, because she's just a miniature. So I'm going to get all the chunks of bark. Whoa, she was way overpotted. Wow, okay. But the good thing is the roots look good. And I wanted to do this before she gets a new cane, because that's going to be soon. Several of you have asked me, can you repot when your orchid is in bloom? You can. Just make sure it's been in bloom for a while and the blooms have had time to harden off. This one's been in bloom for 6 months now. So like I said, the moss wasn't wrong. It was just too much, way too much moss. Look at this, this was too much. But the good thing is the moss is still in good shape. I haven't decided what I'm going to reuse it for, but I might do a video on that one day. It's kind of a follow-up. Now I'm not going to be able to get in here and remove every single bit of this moss. So what I've done is I've got a cup of warm water, and I'm just going to place this down in here, and that's going to loosen a lot of that moss. So I'll be right back after I've got some of this moss soaked off. Okay, so I had this over-potted. The pot was way too big. So it's going to go back in this smaller pot. I believe that the roots are going to do very well in this size pot. I have almost all of the New Zealand sphagnum moss off of these roots, and the roots look really, really good. Everything feels, yes, everything looks good, and I'm almost sure that this is going to do better in the Orchiata bark. So this is going to be its new home. Okay, so let's move this out of the way, and I'm going to place this up on my surface here. It's so easy to work with Orchiata bark. You're just going to pour it in. See, it's all the same. It's all the same size. I love that. You don't get huge chunks and small chunks in the same bag. You get pretty much the same thing. Makes repotting a lot easier. I think that this little orchid is going to be so happy in here. Several of you have asked me, do I soak the Orchiata before I use it? No, I don't. It retains moisture very well, and really after the first few times you water it, you're going to notice it retains moisture. So that's an added benefit to this. It also retains nutrients. It is treated with dolomite, which is a natural source of calcium and magnesium, which is awesome because that helps prevent transplant shock. You see how easy this is? So easy. And I kind of tap it down just to get the little air spaces. Now I want to make sure that I see a little bit of the roots here. With dendrobiums, you don't want to cover the tops of the canes. You want them to have air. Easy. And I'm going to have to stake this so that it doesn't fall over. I believe that's going to be enough bark. That was easy. Okay. Okay, I was going to use a stake to stake this in place, but as you see, this is the pot that it was sitting down in, and I've got some non-dissolvable packing peanuts in here. And when I put it back in the pot, look at this. It just stakes the whole thing up. Ta-da! I don't have to use a stake. When it gets some new growth, when it gets a new cane, it will stabilize the plant as well. So I don't have to do anything to it. I don't have to stake it. And that's it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to water it well, and I'll probably water it again in just a few days. But then after that, you're going to notice that the bark is going to retain the moisture, and you don't really have to water it more than you do your other established plants. Just keep an eye on it, because according to your environment, that's going to depend on how often you're going to water it. So that's a wrap. And I believe that little Salaya Chompu has a new home. She looks very happy. Okay, well, let me say the blessing over you all and your families and your orchids before we go. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you and your families his shalom peace. Make it a great day. We'll see you all next time.
Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.